Hi and welcome everyone, SPFBO is back and I am pleased and indeed proud to be back as well, reading books for Phase 1 as part of Team Bookborn. Today I'm going to go through the 6 titles that I'm starting off with for this year's competition. So this year's competition is aptly titled SPFBO9 because it is the 9th running of the competition. So next year's will be the 10-year anniversary, which is a fantastic achievement for what I think is a fantastic competition. For those who don't know about SPFBO, I've talked about it on the channel quite a bit, so I won't go into too much detail, but I'll leave links below for several resources for the competition. First of all, there'll be Mark Lawrence's SPFBO kind of landing page for this year's competition, so you can check out all of the books, all of the judges, and get updates as the reviews start coming in from those judges. There will also be a link to Zach Argyle's page where he puts up a visual representation of all of the books as they're split amongst the judging panels. And then there's another one as well on the Indie Accords which gives a similar representation but does have a bit more filtering opportunity. So if you want to find books that are available outside of Amazon, for instance, you can do so using the filters there. For Team Bookborn this year, there's a slightly new look panel with 2 judges not returning and 2 coming in to replace them. So we've still got myself, Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative, Pete from Ponderings with Pete, and then we've also got Andrew from Andrew's Wizardly Reads and Jordan from Jordan Reads. We've got a great selection of books this year and it was quite difficult to allocate them between the judges because a lot of them were requested by multiple judges. But we managed it in the end, or at least Bookborn did, and I'm going to go through the 6 of this selection that have been allocated to me. So because I don't know too much about these books at present, I'm going to read the synopses of them and just give some initial thoughts and as applicable kind of why I requested them. So we're going to start off with Daughter of the Beast by E.C. Greaves. This is book 1 of the Vaishivka trilogy. It's a word that I'm not familiar with. I wasn't sure if it was an in-world word or if it was something existing, but I did look it up and the best I could come up with was a translation of embroidery. Now sections of the book are titled Stitches, so maybe there's something in that. The synopsis for this one reads, when her sleepy village is raided by the Volcari, the fearsome warrior women of the ancient wilds, only Zintail Fairwinter is taken. Claimed as a daughter by their infamous matriarch, Zintail is trained to hunt, to fight and to kill, all for a purpose which remains ever out of her grasp. In the company of their unruly young she might find sisterhood, in their unique customs and beliefs she might find beauty, and in the violence of their raids she might even find glory. But it's the reason for her capture that Zintail truly seeks. It's a truth that must be earned from the very spirits of the dead, a future paid for in the blood of those Zintail once called her own. It's a purpose that promises the liberation of not just she, but of all the ancient wilds from an evil far greater than any marauding warrior women. Warrior or no, however, the Volcari are not like other women, the Volcari are monsters. And sometimes only the truly monstrous have what it takes to save the world. This one is steeped in Slavic myth and appealing to adults and young readers alike. Daughter of the Beast is a rich and unique fantasy coming-of-age story. It's the first in the exciting debut trilogy by E.C. Greaves, which blends action and adventure with themes of belonging, identity, destiny, and a girl's place in a harsh and uncaring world built by men and built for men. So I did have a look and I really like, first of all, the cover of this one, but also of the 2nd and the 3rd book in the series. They'll look great together on the shelves, but the cover was one of the main reasons I wanted this one in my allocation. I did like the synopsis, it really drew me in, but the cover itself just drew me in more and more the more I looked at it. Next in my list, I've got Seekers Winds of Change by Troy Knowlton. This one I did request mainly because, well, first of all, a couple of the people in the group, I know Andrew and Leslie have both already read this, so it made sense for someone to come to it fresh to read it for the competition. But also, I do actually have a copy of this one on my shelf, and I've just never got round to it. I've never found that right moment to pick it up, so now that moment's been handed to me on a plate. After an assassination attempt could lead to an all-out war, Tyrus and Auron, two young seekers of the Argan Empire, are each given a secret missions in an attempt to thwart the coming chaos. Both tasks require the seekers to venture through the war-torn continent of Tiana, where young men face mortal danger, horrible monsters, and hostile groups, all challenges seekers are trained to combat. Luckily, the two seekers also find guidance, friendship, and romance along the way. However, powerful and mysterious forces are conspiring behind the scenes, and both Tyrus and Auron will have to overcome a host of obstacles, including their own inner demons, in order to maintain a glimmer of hope for success. With war imminent and the unknown ahead, will the seekers triumph, or will they be swallowed by the turbulent, relentless winds of change? So this one's got a 3.83 rating from 59. It's got 38 reviews as well since being published in March 2022. I didn't say for Daughter of the Beast, but that does remind me. There's no ratings on these ones. The 3 books in the trilogy have only got 1 rating each from the author. The first book in that series was published on the 4th of March 2022, so it's going to be an interesting one being the first one potentially to get to that one, or having the first ratings and hopefully reviews coming as part of the competition. Seekers has been read a bit more. As I say, Andrew and Leslie have read it as 2 people kind of close to me that I do know have enjoyed this book, so I'm quite hoping that this one's going to be a hit for me as well. The next one in my allocation is another one that doesn't really have any ratings to speak of. There's only 2 on Goodreads at the time of filming. This one was published just in April, towards the end of April in fact, 2023, so it's not really had much time to get the ratings there. It's called, though, Strangers in the High City, Children of the Lunar Gods, Book 1 by J.E. Cabrera. And this one's kind of an outlier. I don't really know anything about the book because the synopsis doesn't tell me much. And I did find some reviews on Amazon, but they were very similar to the synopsis in what they did tell me, and of course, therefore, what they didn't tell me, which is anything whatsoever about the storyline. So with this one, I had a look at the preview that's available on Amazon, and it looked like it could be one that fits my kind of tastes. It starts off with an execution. I skimmed a bit of the first chapter to get a bit of a feel for it and decided to go for it because, well, someone's got to either go out on a limb or just have it allocated to them. And because it seemed that it could be a fantasy that I get on with, I decided to be the one to take that jump. The synopsis, though, as I say, it doesn't really tell us much. It says high stakes, emotional roller coasters, shocking revelations, and this is just the prologue. This is a story that has friendships that you will not soon forget, a carefully built story weaved perfect between multiple characters, action that will keep you on the edge of your seat, lore that you can bite into. If you like these things, you'll love each and every page of Strangers in the High City. And that, boys and girls, is everything that you get from the synopsis, so not really much at all to tell me what the book is about and to make me want to read it. The reviews, as I say, don't give any further information on what the book is about, so I guess I'll have to be the one to change that. Next up in my allocation is a book called Askefise. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. It's Tales of Redemir, Book 1 by Rebecca Schmid. And again, it's one that hasn't got any ratings to speak of, just 1 on Goodreads at the time of filming, and it was published on the 12th of October 2022. This is another one that I took a look at the preview available on Amazon and sort of skimmed through that first chapter to get a feel for it. Again, it felt like it could be one that I could get on with, so I decided to take a punt on it, and I'll find out soon. The synopsis for this one starts off with a definition. So Askefise, the title of the book, it says is a noun, one who blows on ashes to bring them to flame. In a time before the Great War has ravaged the land, 2 sisters stumble across a lone traveller who calls himself Tyron. They tell him they're just passers-by. He tells them he's nobody. They're all lying. When the sisters begrudgingly agree to take Tyron with them to safety, they have no idea what they set in motion. One thing's for sure, the world of Beatrice will never be the same. For once Tyron has started, there's no turning back. While this is a prequel following an antagonist from the series A Daughter's Ransom, it can be read as a standalone. It's not recommended for young readers. So I've seen in some of the reviews for this book that I skimmed through that this is essentially an origin story for this antagonist it talks about. So I'm hoping this one's going to be a really good character-driven book. Then I've got Unfamiliar Territory, the Familiar's Legacy Book 1 by R. Lindsay Carter, and this one does have some ratings, so it's got 4.53 average on Goodreads from 17 ratings, and there are 13 reviews as well. It was published in April 2022. Cressida Curtin has a business to run. She spends her time catching bad guys and turning them in for bounties. After all, she's a natural-born hunter. She also isn't exactly human. That's her secret to keep, because her very existence is the only thing holding an evil at bay. It's a legacy that's been passed down through the generations, and Cressida is the latest in line. But she's not going to let a little thing like the fate of the world get in her way. Life as a bounty hunter is never dull, and hers is about to get a lot more interesting. So this one's got, from what I can tell, shifters, and it's also got animal companions who are apparently really good. And I've also seen from the preview of this one that there are some otherworldly influences, and that other world is our world, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out and how much of an impact it has on this story. And then book number 6 in my allocation is To Steal the Sun by S.M. Carter. This is book 1 in the Jeweled Lands. This has an average rating from 52 of 4.4, and it's also got 26 reviews on Goodreads. It was published in October 2022. When Ryuk, the most cunning smuggler this side of the desert, finds where the Ivory King vaults his magical runes, he builds a crew to execute an elaborate heist. Among them is Carly the Hunter, a religious assassin with blind ambition, a young rogue Kirin with wit sharper than his arrows ought to be, and Amara, the so-called night spirit, whose raven hair conceals even darker secrets. It won't be easy. They're opposed by the curved blades of the magic deranged, watched by a paranoid king, and hunted by gaunt beasts that click in the cold desert night, all the while discovering that trusting each other might be the most dangerous mission of all. To Steal the Sun is a tale of unlikely heroes thrust together in a new, refreshing fantasy, one cast in vibrant silks, fragrant spice, and the relentless glare of a radiant sun. So this one was a late addition to our group. It replaced a book that didn't meet the criteria for the competition, so when that one was removed, this one came in from the reserve list, and I'm really pleased that it did, because it's one that looks like it's a great fantasy, and a fantasy heist as well. I've said recently in some videos that I do quite like a fantasy heist, and I need to read a few more good ones, so hopefully this will be one. When it came into our group, there were a couple of us who immediately were drawn to it because of the cover and the synopsis, so I'm really happy that I was able to get this one in my allocation, and hopefully I'll have a good time with it. So there we go, there's a quick look at the 6 that I'm going to be starting off with for Phase 1 for Team Bookborn. I do say starting off because we are going to be a little bit freer with our reads. If there's a book that I don't get on with, for instance, but I think someone else might do, or I think that it's maybe a good book but just not to my tastes, then we'll put it out for the group to see if anyone else wants to read it, to give it essentially a second chance. So there's always a possibility that I might pick up another book or two along the way from the other judges as well. We'll see how that goes though. There's plenty of time in the next few months to go through our initial allocations. But as I say, that's the initial look at my allocation. What have you got your eye on in SPFBO9? Have you got any titles that you're planning to read or you've already read and you want to shout out? That's me for today. I'll hopefully catch you in the next video sometime soon, but until then, as always, take care of yourselves, read some good books. Bye for now.